The Battle of Helms Deep from The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers is a cinematic masterpiece, but like many, I've wondered how this spectacular scene would play out if the defenders had modern weapons. There's just something intriguing about empowering a hopeless situation with a sudden asymmetric capability. So it got me thinking, why stop at modern weapons? Let's swap out the original characters too. No disrespect to Aragorn, he's a legendary swordsman, an admirable leader, but he's not the guy I want manning the 50 against the hordes of Isengard. Instead, let's bring in modern personnel, and since I'm Australian, it's only proper I select the fine diggers of the Royal Australian Regiment for the task. My goal with this video is to apply contemporary military planning, assets, and tactics to the defence of Helm's Deep, demonstrating how present-day soldiers might realistically go about preparing for such a battle. If you're more interested in the outcome than the strategy, you can use the timestamps on screen to skip ahead. I will explain this using the following structure. Part 1, Enemy Force Analysis. Part 2, Friendly Force Analysis. Part 3, Terrain Analysis. Part 4, Engagement Area Development. And Part 5, the battle itself. Before we begin, here is a refresher on the events of the film. Saruman, corrupted by Sauron, has unleashed his forces upon the kingdom of Rohan, sending Uruk-Hai armies to pillage and plunder unchecked. With the hordes approaching the capital Edoras, King Theoden leads his people to Helm's Deep, an ancient fortified valley located at the foot of the White Mountains. On arrival, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli assist Theoden in defensive preparations and lament the futility of the situation due to the ragtag defenders consisting of farmers and untrained children. Helm's Deep must be held until dawn, when reinforcements are expected in the form of Gandalf leading previously vanished Rohirrim cavalry. Part 1, Enemy Force Analysis. Saruman's army consists overwhelmingly of Uruk-Hai infantry, bred in the pits of Isengard specifically for combat. They are a human-orc hybrid, genetically stronger and faster than conventional orcs. Highly disciplined, resistant to pain, and standing 6 to 7 feet tall, they are a formidable foe to even the most experienced human combatant. The siege force consists of approximately 10,000 Uruk-Hai warriors, with a smaller number of standard orcs acting as auxiliary forces. Saruman is the chief strategist and commander of the army, however delegates tactical ground command to an Uruk-Hai general. Applying mission command in this way allows Saruman to focus on the bigger picture concurrent to the situation at Helm's Deep, and indicates the trust placed in the capabilities of Uruk-Hai leadership. The army is grouped into 2 siege-specific subunits. First, an assault force, consisting of combatants focused on offensive action and maneuver. The core assaulting entity, heavy infantry storm enemy fortifications, engage in close combat, and surge to exploit tactical breakthroughs. A unit conducting both offensive and defensive functions. Pikemen prevent counterattacks, protect siege engineers, and defend against cavalry charges. Specialised shock troops, minimally armoured yet larger than the standard Uruk-Hai. Berserkers fight with frenzied aggression with no regard for their well-being. Used for their psychological impact, they are tasked with spearheading assaults and executing high-risk decisive events. A ranged support unit, Uruk-Hai crossbowmen suppress enemy archers and provide cover for infantry and siege units. Next is the support force. These units are not focused on direct combat, but rather enabling assault force tactical actions. A small but critical element consisting of Uruk-Hai trained specifically in breaching tactics. Armed with ladders and battering rams, their main tasks are deploying wall scaling equipment and achieving tactical breakthroughs on gates and other entry points. A cadre of Uruk-Hai unique to Saruman's legions. They are a critical force multiplier entrusted with the scarce but destructive stock of explosive weapons. Their primary task is to create strategic breaches in enemy obstacles. Less disciplined, weaker, and poorly equipped supplementary forces. They are tasked with general duties, resupply, and reinforcing depleted Uruk-Hai formations. Bear in mind these figures are not precise or true to Jackson's canon, but rather assessments made from watching the film to progress with tactical planning, which is a military way of saying, I simply made them up. Having understood the organisational structure of the enemy, their likely mission and intent must be determined. In the real world, this is based off field intelligence. In this case, the film explicitly states the enemy mission when Saruman is addressing the Uruk-Hai formation in Isengard. March to Helm's Deep, leave none alive. The order is succinct as it is ruthless. Destroy all Rohirrim personnel in the vicinity of Helm's Deep. Weapons. The Uruk-Hai arsenal embodies their brutal and intimidating nature, and their signature weapon is the Uruk-Hai scimitar, a crudely forged, straight-edged sword used in a slashing manner during close combat. This is the standard issue weapon for the heavy infantry. A 12-foot-long iron-tipped pike is carried by the imposing Uruk-Hai pikemen. The pike is a logical choice against the cavalry-centric Rohirrim, but offers little advantage against an adversary armed with ranged weapons. The Uruk-Hai crossbow is the primary ranged weapon within the assault force. Mechanically reloaded and firing an iron-tipped bolt, it lacks the range of a longbow, but can be more easily fired on the move. For planning purposes, we'll generously assume their point target range to be 100 meters. While lacking artillery, the Uruk-Hai employ an assault ballista to aid in scaling fortress walls. Launching a large anchor and rope, this system is used less as an offensive weapon and more as an engineering tool. The heavy infantry are also equipped with steel armour and a wood-steel composite shield. Although hefty, these provide zero protection against modern high-velocity projectiles. Centre of gravity. A critical component of enemy analysis is determining their centre of gravity. In the military context, this is a concept used to identify the primary source of power that gives a force, nation, or organisation the will, strength, or ability to achieve its military objectives. By determining the enemy's centre of gravity, we can better develop strategies to weaken or destroy them, while simultaneously protecting the friendly centre of gravity from enemy actions. I assess the centre of gravity of Isengard's army to be their numerical superiority. As is alluded to in the film in a conversation between Saruman and Grima Wormtongue, the Uruk-Hai's entire strategy hinges on their ability to overwhelm defences through massed, relentless force. Numerical superiority makes this possible by allowing them to attempt simultaneous tactical break-ins, absorb heavy losses without compromising their offensive capability, and maintain a prolonged siege until the defenders are physically and psychologically exhausted. The next step is to determine the associated critical capabilities required to support the enemy's centre of gravity. First, strong battle discipline allows complex formations such as phalanxes and shield walls to be formed, which in turn support the advance of the assault force. Assets such as ladders and battering rams allow the Uruk-Hai to breach fortifications, granting exploitation to awaiting assault forces. A key battlefield innovation, Saruman's improvised explosive devices are a crucial part of the Uruk-Hai breaching methodology. Leveraging emerging technology in this way removes their reliance on heavy siege artillery, further enhancing their mobility. The superior physicality of the Uruk-Hai allows them to easily overpower human combatants in close combat, and they can sustain offensive operations for prolonged periods without rest. Crossbows provide organic suppressing fire to the assault force, and with their high manoeuvrability can be utilised among the close confines of ladders and battering rams. Finally, their unwavering loyalty to Saruman, confidence in their training, and zealous belief in their cause all serve to amplify their battlefield morale and aggression in combat. Their brutal reputation is also a psychological weapon, and may serve to degrade the resolve of their adversaries. Critical vulnerabilities. When searching for critical vulnerabilities in a centre of gravity analysis, we must assess internal, external, technical, geographic, and even psychological aspects of the centre of gravity that can be neutralised or defeated. By doing so, we can render the centre of gravity irrelevant, deny it required support, or exploit a systematic weakness. Firstly, with only crossbows in their projectile weapons arsenal, the Uruk-Hai are comfortably outranged by siege artillery and longbows. Without the ability to project long-range firepower, their numerical advantage is easily nullified by an opponent possessing such capability. Explosives form a core element of the enemy's breaching strategy. The absence of explosives sees the Uruk-Hai relying exclusively on ladders and battering rams to achieve a tactical break-in, and removes the surprise and violence of action associated with the breaching charge. Timely and confident leadership is required to achieve tight coordination of multi-point, simultaneous breaches. These formations and subunit tactics also depend on persistent discipline and centralised command. If key leaders are removed from the battle space, subunits and individuals are unlikely to possess the initiative to effectively continue the mission. The scale of the enemy formation leaves them vulnerable to canalisation by terrain features. Undulating ground, obstacles, or movement corridors that impede their ability to deploy across a wide frontage limits their numerical advantage and leaves them prone to attrition and counterattack. While the Uruk-Hai are well trained and rehearsed, their plans are executed rigidly with little flexibility. This leaves them without tactical adaptability in the face of battlefield friction, such as unexpected enemy actions or failure within their own decisive events. While the Uruk-Hai are disciplined and resistant to fear, even their psychological conditioning and mental resilience have limits. Their high morale, therefore, is both a capability and vulnerability, and despite being bred for war, they are still biological beings with some sense of self-preservation. Under the right circumstances, this makes them prone to being routed when faced with drastic strategic changes or sudden catastrophic losses. Part 2. Friendly Force Analysis. Having made our assessments about the enemy, we can now do the same to our friendly forces. The defending force is loosely based on a conventional infantry battalion from the Royal Australian Regiment. A professional, well-trained and well-equipped force hailing from a small but experienced army, the Royal Australian Regiment exists primarily to inflict state-sanctioned violence on the enemies of Australia. I've applied some artistic license to the exact composition and amalgamated multiple battalion structures from the past 15 years into one. So it's not quite realistic, but serves as a representative unit composition for the task of defending Helms Deep. Command structure. The battalion commanding officer is an infantry lieutenant colonel who operates within the BHQ command team. The CO has the final say on all plans and is ultimately responsible for all strategic and tactical decisions made during the defensive battle. Falling under the command of the CO are 3 rifle companies and a specialist support company. Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie Company are each commanded by a major within the company HQ team, and have 3 platoons each. Each platoon has a command team and 3 8-man sections, for a total of 86 men per company. The main fighting force of which the battalion revolves around, the primary task of the rifle company is to seize and hold ground, conduct counterattacks, and engage the enemy in close combat. Support Company and its specialist platoons provide focused capabilities that augment the combat power of the rifle companies. The assets within Support Company are key enablers to any mission set and have specified roles in both defensive and offensive operations. DFSW Platoon. Specialists in anti-armor and direct fire support weapons, DFSW Platoon provide accurate and sustained fire using heavy weapons. Their primary task is to provide a high volume of suppressive fire onto enemy positions or formations. Mortar Platoon maintain the battalion's sole indirect fire capability. Able to engage targets in dead ground, mortars provide a strategic advantage in their ability to engage enemy behind cover. With a diverse range of munitions, they are tasked with providing indirect fire support, suppression, and area denial. Assault Pioneers provide organic engineering support to the battalion and bridge the task gap between those of a rifleman and external combat engineers. A versatile and multi-purpose specialist, Pioneers enhance the mobility and survivability of the infantry battalion. Their key tasks are the construction of field fortifications, developing counter-mobility obstacles, and demolitions. Specially trained marksmen, the sniper's core capability is to provide surgical direct fire support. Snipers can engage the enemy in close proximity to friendly forces, where other forms of fire support would pose an unacceptable risk of fratricide. Their key task is the identification of and destruction of high-value targets. Mission. While the immediate tactical intent is to hold Helms Deep until reinforced, this mission presents the opportunity for the battalion to comprehensively defeat the Uruk-Hai army. Thus, the mission of the defenders becomes to destroy the army of Isengard in vicinity of Helms Deep in order to degrade Saruman's ability to wage open war. As they're coming to do the same to us, I don't think they'll take it personally when we return the favour. Weapons. The battalion is equipped with a versatile range of small arms, explosives, and heavy weapons that support the scope of infantry operations. Understanding the key characteristics and limitations of each of these is vital to enable effective planning and development of engagement areas. The following are the standard weapons for the rifle companies. A hand-thrown fragmentation grenade used for clearing bunkers or to disrupt enemy advance. A simple but robust weapon, the F1 grenade is effective against massed enemies in choke points or behind cover. Every member of the battalion carries 2 F1 grenades with a lethal radius of 6 meters. The standard individual weapon for all personnel is the EF-88. It is a gas-operated, magazine-fed 5.56mm bullpup rifle capable of semi and fully automatic fire. It has a 4 times magnified day optic and can be equipped with a night vision or thermal inline night sight, creating a potent night fighting system. The standard ammunition loadout is 210 rounds per man, and the effective range is 300 meters. The F-89 Minimi is the squad support weapon. Issued at 2 per section, it is a belt-fed light machine gun, which shares the night fighting ability of the EF-88. Its high rate of fire and quick change barrel provides native suppressive fire to the section. The standard ammunition loadout is 800 rounds per man, and the effective range is 400 meters. A break-action single-shot 40mm grenade launcher. The SL-40 is either independently carried or mounted under barrel of the EF-88. 2 SL-40s are issued per section, with a range of ammunition available including high explosive, illumination, and smoke. A common loadout is 8 high explosive rounds, and it has an effective range of 400 meters. The Mag-58 is the general-purpose machine gun of the battalion. Chambered in 7.62 by 51mm NATO, it is a gas-operated, air-cooled, belt-fed medium machine gun. In a sustained fire role, it uses multiple spare barrels to provide a continuous and heavy rate of suppressive fire. Each platoon will commonly have access to 1 Mag-58 and 2,000 rounds of 7.62 on an ad hoc basis, with an effective range of 800 meters from the bipod. The M18 Claymore is a directional command-detonated anti-personnel mine. Containing an explosive C4 charge covered by 700 steel balls, it creates a wide fan-shaped pattern of fragmentation useful in ambushing or defensive tasks. Each section carries 2 mines as standard, and the Claymore is lethal up to 50 meters and effective out to 100 meters. The 84mm Carl Gustav recoilless rifle is the fundamental anti-tank weapon of the rifle company. It is a versatile, reliable, and lethal shoulder-fired weapon system, capable of firing heat, HE airburst, smoke, and illumination rounds. Like the Mag-58, the Carl Gustav is issued to rifle platoons on an as-needed basis and is effective out to 1,000 meters against soft targets in the open. Support Company. The following weapon systems are issued to the relevant specialist platoons within Support Company. The mortar is a battle-winning weapon, capable of blanketing areas with high explosive and fragmentation effect. Lethal against infantry in the open, the high-angle trajectory allows it to target enemy beyond line of sight and provides 360 cover using pre-registered targets. targets. Mortar platoon commonly has 2 tubes per section for a total of 6, with a maximum effective range of 5,000 metres. A tripod-mounted 12.7mm heavy machine gun. The 50 cal is used by DFSW platoon in similar sustained fire roles to the Mag-58, albeit with increased firepower and range. A platoon gun line will typically consist of 6 guns with 2,000 rounds each, with an effective direct range of 2,000 metres. Also issued to DFSW is the Mark 47 automatic grenade launcher, or AGL. Firing the high-velocity 40mm projectile, the Mark 47 is equipped with advanced thermal imaging optics, making it lethal and accurate by day or night. A DFSW gun line will feature 6 AGLs, with approximately 500 rounds per gun. The Mark 47 is capable of engaging point targets at 1,500 metres and area targets at over 2,000 metres. Note that with access to numerous heavy weapon systems, DFSW platoon adopt a golf bag approach to missions, equipping the most appropriate tool for the task. The SR-25 is a 7.62 by 51mm semi-automatic sniper rifle, fed from a 20-round box magazine. This platform provides snipers a high rate of precision fire when compared to a bolt action, making it ideal for target-rich environments or moving targets. There are commonly 6 SR-25s per sniper cell, this being the primary weapon of the sniper team leader. The max effective range is 1,000 metres. A 338 bolt-action sniper rifle. The Blazer Tactical 2 is the primary long-range anti-personnel weapon issued to sniper teams. The 338 Lapua Magnum projectile has excellent armour-penetrating capability and is used to target select high-value individuals at distance. Each sniper number 2 is issued a Blazer as their primary weapon, with 6 total for the cell. The Blazer has an effective range of 1,500 metres and can be equipped with both night and thermal optics. Using their demolitions expertise, assault pioneers are able to tailor-make purpose-designed explosives for both offensive and defensive operations. Examples include breaching torpedoes, incendiary bombs, and remote detonated fragmentation devices, akin to an upscaled claymore. When incorporated into a protective plan and combined with obstacles, these munitions create substantial attrition among attacking forces. Centre of gravity. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the firepower wielded by the diggers is the clear strategic advantage over their anachronistic adversaries. In this context, it is obvious as the centre of gravity, as it is not a contributing factor to their strength, but rather the strength of their organisation. Firepower superiority enables the defenders to destroy the enemy with decisive range overmatch, hold ground in a defensive posture even when disproportionately outnumbered, and quickly and accurately destroy key enemy assets or personnel. Critical capabilities. As with the enemy analysis, the next step is to determine the related capabilities supporting the centre of gravity. The modern weapons are the crucial enabler to the centre of gravity. These weapon systems deliver precise, lethal, and devastating effects across the battlefield at a high volume of fire. Even excluding heavy support weapons, the humble service rifle is lethal in both close quarters and extended range combat. The superior range of these weapons allows defense in depth to be achieved. By layering the effective ranges of all platforms, an enemy advance can be disrupted, neutralized, or destroyed prior to them reaching their objective. When combined with obstacles such as barbed wire, layered defense creates overlapping and continuous fields of fire and delays the enemy advance while buying time for defenders to regroup or resupply. The high rate of fire of machine guns and explosive ordnance from grenades and mortars serve to fix enemy forces in place using suppressive fire. This prevents an enemy from advancing, hinders employment of their own weapons or capabilities, and can prevent their withdrawal. Rigorous training and professionalism ensure high levels of discipline under fire. This enables the execution of complex plans, maintenance of cohesion, and instinctive reaction to sudden changes in the tactical circumstance, courtesy of well-rehearsed drills. The battalion uses radio systems down to the individual level to maintain real-time communication between commanders and soldiers. This provides constant and instant coordination across the entire unit and allows updates to the tactical situation to be immediately shared. The speed at which communication occurs allows threats to be rapidly addressed by repositioning weapons or personnel to reinforce critical areas. Night fighting is a core skill to the infantry battalion, and every soldier is equipped with advanced night vision systems and weapon ancillaries permitting close and ranged combat in complete darkness. Thermal imaging weapon sights provide further advantage, able to see through fog, smoke, and concealment, regardless of weather conditions or time of day. Critical vulnerabilities. The most obvious vulnerability. Such weapon systems demand considerable ammunition supply. Prolonged combat against a numerically superior enemy risks rapid depletion of said ammunition, reducing the digger's ability to suppress massed assaults effectively. If key weapons are not resupplied, conserving ammunition means reduced capacity to repel sustained or simultaneous attacks. With less than 500 soldiers, the battalion is numerically inferior against horde assaults. Even with impressive firepower, this small composition limits available reserves, and the effect of every casualty is exacerbated. Even a small amount of injuries could render key supporting weapons ineffective, in turn creating exploitable gaps in suppression. Co-locating personnel into a single main defensive position reduces the ability of dislocated positions to provide mutually supporting fires, and increases the risk of being overrun when facing concurrent assaults on multiple fronts. If a single enemy breakthrough is achieved, the cascading effect will likely compromise the entirety of the position. While a battalion is trained in unarmed combat, modern diggers favour ranged engagements. This makes them vulnerable against massed opponents in confined or crowded spaces. In these circumstances, the advantage of firearms are negated, forcing diggers into melee combat where they are likely to suffer heavy casualties against more physically imposing opponents proficient in swordsmanship and bladed weapons. Fog, rain, and darkness reduce the effective employment of weapons, and electro-optical equipment such as night vision, optical sights, lasers, and radios can suffer a drop in performance when exposed to inclement weather. Wet and muddy conditions also degrade weapon reliability, individual mobility, and morale. Relentless pressure from attacking hordes means remaining constantly engaged in the fight, preventing rest or rotation. The ensuing combat fatigue diminishes reaction times, individual skills, and decision-making. This physical and mental strain degrades morale and increases mistakes, which can have immediate implications on the broader defensive situation. Part 3. Terrain Analysis. While the enemy and friendly analysis helps us identify the who and what of both sides, terrain analysis allows us to determine the where, contextual to the mission at hand. Effective terrain analysis therefore helps us determine tactical advantages and disadvantages for both friendly and enemy forces. Define the area of interest. Helms Deep is a fortified valley located near the Westfold in the territory of Rohan, a highly prized and strategic defendable position consisting of both natural and man-made features. It encompasses the Hornburg Fortress, the Deeping Wall, and surrounding mountainous terrain. The area of interest includes these defensive structures, the valley entrance, as well as a cave system accessed through the rear of the keep. Analysis of terrain features. Observation and fields of fire. The elevated positions of the Hornburg Fortress and Tower provide unhindered observation out to extreme limits. The approaching terrain is flat and sparsely vegetated, allowing unimpeded direct fire weapons effect out to maximum range. Cover and concealment. The fortress and its surrounding walls offer excellent cover for defenders, with thick stone structures capable of withstanding mechanical breaching and projectiles. Conversely, attackers are tremendously exposed during their movement through the open valley, with no natural cover offering protection from fire or observation. Obstacles. The topography of Helms Deep is a natural obstacle in and of itself. The Deeping Wall spans the width of the valley, preventing access to the flank of the fortress. The main gate has a single approach, a narrow causeway, creating a choke point that prevents massing of troops. The steep cliffs on either side of the valley prevent flanking maneuvers, yet simultaneously leave defenders isolated from resupply and reinforcement. Key terrain. The Hornburg Fortress is the primary defensive structure of Helms Deep. Control of the Hornburg ensures protection to its inhabitants, thus offering a decisive advantage to whomever holds it. A culvert runs through the centre of the Deeping Wall, and physical control over this culvert is critical to defenders wishing to prevent breaches or attackers attempting to achieve a tactical break-in. The same is true of the main gate. Part 4. Engagement Area Development. To destroy the enemy in terrain of our choosing, we must develop a course of action that considers the aforementioned enemy centre of gravity. A robust engagement area plan will negate the enemy's capabilities while also targeting their vulnerabilities. 1. Identify likely enemy avenues of approach. The natural terrain of Helms Deep makes this step simple, with only one avenue of approach capable of supporting massed forces. The Uruk-Hai army must therefore enter the valley in a single dense formation. Flanking and rear terrain only affords movement to small, agile teams, who would need to be physically capable of negotiating the mountains and cliffs. This limits these approaches to specialised sabotage or reconnaissance troops. 2. Determine the enemy scheme of manoeuvre. As we've seen this battle play out, we know their likely entry points to the fortress are the culvert, the main gate, and both the Hornburg and Deeping Walls. They will employ siege ladders, battering rams, and explosive specialists to breach defences, supported by crossbow suppression and pikemen for counterattacks. On achieving any tactical break-in, they will surge forces to exploit the weakened position. 3. Determine where to kill the enemy. The engagement area is a rectangular kill zone focused on the choke point of the valley leading to the foot of the fortress. Weapons will be sited in layered and mutually supportive arcs to saturate the area with both direct and indirect fire. 4. Plan and integrate obstacles. As we've seemingly teleported into Helms Deep with modern weapons, we may as well bring along a battalion's allocation of defensive stores, enabling us to construct wire obstacles. I'm allowing 12 hours for this preparation, as while the timeline isn't explicit in the film, we can make an approximation of the time remaining between Theoden's arrival and the Uruk-Hai later that evening. The first layer is a row of Cat3 concertina wire. This runs from the valley wall inwards, slightly angled towards the centre gap. This is intended to delay rather than halt the Uruk-Hai advance, and more importantly, funnel them into pre-sighted lines of fire. Next is a grid of low wire entanglement. This is a simple yet resource-efficient way to wire a large area and is an excellent nuisance obstacle for dismounted troops. Critically, this also denies the Uruk-Hai crossbowmen the ability to engage while moving. The next key points are the culvert and the main gate. Both entrances to these will be blocked with the remaining wire, as well as any non-flammable barriers found within the keep. Unlike the film, this will be done before the assaulters arrive with a battering ram. The final step involves using the remaining star pickets to erect a spike line against the base of the deeping wall to further delay and obstruct the ladder-emplacing engineers. I've opted against digging trenches or pits, as while they would inflict delay, they also provide cover from fire on the otherwise open killing ground. 5. Emplace weapon systems. We're now ready to sight our primary weapons to achieve interlocking fields of fire, while also covering our obstacles. First will come our charges emplaced by the pioneers. Using a combination of C4 explosive, old barrels, and makeshift fragmentation, the pioneers will construct 4 large improvised explosives within the engagement area. These super claymores will inflict devastating casualties, as well as intense psychological shock. Once constructed, pioneers will occupy the keep. Next, the heavy weapons crewed by DFSW platoon. These will be divided into 4 50 cals across 2 sections manning the deeping wall, and the remaining section armed with Mark 47 AGL on the Hornburg battlements. Snipers will be divided into 3 4-man teams, occupying the tower and flank positions on the deeping wall, armed with the 338 for high-value targets in depth and the SR-25s for engaging close-in priority targets. Alpha Company is tasked with defense of the wall. Using their allocation of MAG-58s, they will co-locate with the DFSW 50 cals and provide oblique, interlocking fields of fire across the frontage, as well as 1 centrally positioned MAG-58. Their Carl Gustavs will also be deployed to the wall, loaded with 84mm HE airburst. Minimize will supplement the MAG-58 positions, and riflemen and grenadiers will fill in the gaps. Finally, Alpha Company will emplace their claymores at the base of the wall to be detonated on command of the section leaders. Located in the gully behind the wall, Bravo Company has the admittedly undesirable task of battalion reserve. 1st Platoon will provide flank and rear security, observing the terrain for enemy scout or sabotage units approaching from the cliffs, as well as protecting the mortar pit. 2nd and 3rd Platoons are the depth force for Alpha Company and will be standing by to replace both personnel and weapon systems from the wall as casualties arise or in the event of catastrophic weapon malfunctions. Bravo Company has the secondary task of reacting to any substantial wall breach and are to delay any penetrating force to buy the mortars time to retrograde into the keep. Located within the fortress, Charlie Company has responsibility for defense of the Hornburg walls and the main gate. 1st Platoon will protect the entrance, with MAG-58s utilising the firing ports to provide mutual interlocking fire down the causeway, supported by Minimi gunners located on the battlements above. 2nd Platoon will provide additional fire support to the deeping wall, using the murder holes and parapets to achieve enfilade fire in support of Alpha Company's front. 3rd Platoon functions as a recovery force, and are positioned to both provide flank security to the Hornburg and extract casualties from the deeping wall for treatment to the battalion aid station, co-located with BHQ. 6. Plan and integrate indirect fires. After sighting our direct fire weapons, the 81mm mortars must be added to the fire plan. The primary task of the mortars is to suppress linear targets across the width of the engagement area. Interlinked with 40mm AGL fire, these pre-sighted zones will layer the valley out to the extreme ranges of the most likely enemy withdrawal route. The intent is to block the enemy's retreat with a barricade of fire, in turn fixing them for destruction by direct fire weapons. The secondary task is a final protective fire target within danger close limits, turning the mortar fire into a defensive shield against overwhelming enemy advance. Section level 40mm grenades can be fired at the discretion of section commanders, targeting the near edge of the engagement area. This fire plan deliberately targets the volatility of Uruk-Hai morale and lack of cohesion in the absence of command. It is more akin to a phased ambush and execution, designed to draw the enemy in, fix them in place with cut-off fires, and annihilate them in place. The battle. With all that planning behind us, let's see how this battle might play out. With the diggers holding fire, the Uruk-Hai march into the valley, blissfully unaware of the ambush they're walking into. They halt their advance on sighting the wire obstacle, confused as to its presence, but nonetheless ready to commence their show of force. At this point, we're happy to let them bash their shields and shriek into the darkness, as we're waiting for the rear guard of the formation to catch up and squeeze into the valley. Unlike the film, we will also maintain fire discipline. Once the rear of the formation has caught up, the engagement will be initiated with the coordinated detonation of the super claymores. In the opening seconds of the battle, the Uruk-Hai have suffered immense casualties, combined with the intense psychological shock of the explosions. Having quickly recovered from the blast, the enraged Uruk-Hai commander orders the charge, and driven by his leadership, the assault commences. Hitting the barbed wire obstacle, the advance is funneled into the axes of the MAG-58s, who can now engage the enemy in an enfilade fashion, generating crippling casualties along the line of advance. Any spot breaches in the wire are targeted by the rifleman and sniper fire, allowing the machine guns to maintain their fixed lines down the long axis of the obstacle. At this point, our sniper teams are identifying but intentionally sparing enemy commanders and instead engaging high-value targets such as berserkers, siege engineers, and particularly explosive specialists. As the horde begins to surge through the gap, the Minimi gunners begin to engage to supplement the medium machine gun fire. At this stage, the Mag-58s are still servicing the length of the wire, allowing the Minimis to concentrate fire on the centre. On flowing past the obstacle, enemy crossbowmen will be the focus of riflemen. As while the suppression is likely nullifying their ability to engage, they present the biggest threat at this stage of the battle. Now having amassed enough force to reconsolidate beyond the obstacle, the Uruk-Hai rallying to storm the causeway will be destroyed by the machine guns protecting the main gate. Given the narrow width of the ramp, degrading any advance on this line of assault should prove simple. But if the situation starts getting prickly, the Charlie Company Minimis can join in to support the Mag-58s. Simultaneously, Uruk-Hai approaching the deeping wall are being severely hindered by the low wire entanglement and become easy pickings for Alpha Company riflemen, enabling the machine guns to continue firing on the obstacles. If pressure mounts at any one location, individual sections can use their claymores, fragmentation grenades, and 40mm underbarrel launchers at their discretion, denying the ability for crossbowmen or ladder engineers to regroup at the base of the structure. The goal now is to lure as many Uruk-Hai as close to the fortress as possible, without permitting a tactical break-in. This will allow the rear of the formation to compress further into the valley, which is the trigger for two decisive events. First, the snipers commence their engagement of Uruk-Hai commanders and junior leaders, and second, the heavy machine guns, mortars, and AGLs begin their sustained raid fire mission onto the centre of the formation. The Carl Gustavs also join the party, and will target the centre breach, utilising their 84mm airburst to attrit and clog up the advance with mass casualties, both wounded and KIA. By simultaneously destroying the Uruk-Hai leadership and decimating them with a barrage of fire, the cohesion of their assault will be instantly crippled, and in the absence of decisive orders, their advance will stall. This is the trigger for the mortars and AGLs to commence their cut-off fires. By switching targets to the rear of the formation, we can inflict severe casualties while concurrently blocking the valley exit with indirect fire. To further enhance this cut-off, the heavy and medium machine guns switch their fires to pre-designated fixed line targets in depth, further preventing enemy withdrawal. The assault now in utter disarray, the Uruk-Hai near the fortress attempt to retreat rearwards, hindered by the obstacles, the crush of the horde, and quite likely, piles of dead bodies. Simultaneously, the panicked Uruk-Hai at the rear will be fleeing towards the wall, terror-stricken by the bombardment of fire slaughtering their rearguard, urging the assault to continue. With the Uruk-Hai hopelessly demoralised and locked into the engagement area, a blitz of firepower can be called upon to deliver the crushing blow to Saruman's legion. Synchronised on command by radio, key weapon systems deliver overwhelming volume of fire to the massed enemy formation. While the mortars and AGLs continue their cut-off fires, snipers target any individual or clusters of Uruk-Hai who successfully flee through the mortar barrage. At this point in the battle, there's not much more tactical orchestration required, aside from being cognizant of ammo conservation for anyone involved in the turkey shoot in the centre of the engagement area. Having been rapidly decimated, the Uruk-Hai numbers dwindle to scattered pockets of individuals attempting to survive in the valley, and with the words of Aragorn ringing in our ears, they are given no quarter and destroyed in place. The end result of the battle, the armies of Isengard annihilated, the structural integrity of the Hornburg intact, and a flabbergasted Gandalf arriving at dawn to be greeted by Australian soldiers collecting war trophies, and the sight of 10,000 dead Uruk-Hai littering the valley of Helm's Deep. As always, thank you for the gift of your time.